The Whispering Woods and the Village's Secret. The village of Nabira was a place of peace, where the golden sun warmed the earth, and the great baobab trees stood tall like silent guardians. The people lived simple lives, but they had one great treasure, Nabira, the village healer. Nabira was no ordinary woman. She knew the secrets of the land, the power of roots and herbs, and the ancient songs that could heal sickness. People traveled from faraway lands to seek her wisdom, bowing in gratitude when she touched their foreheads with her healing hands. To the villagers, she was more than a healer, she was their protector, their matriarch, their guide. But in the quiet shadows of this love and admiration, her daughter, Zari, felt something was wrong. Unlike the others, Zari did not feel warmth when she stood close to Nabira. She did not feel the comfort that others spoke of. Instead, she felt something cold, an invisible force that seemed to linger in the air around her mother. A whisper that did not belong to the wind. Zari tried to push these feelings away. She wanted to love her mother like everyone else did. But the more she watched, the more she noticed the small things, how Nabira's touch seemed to last too long on people's skin, how their eyes sometimes looked dazed after speaking with her, how the air grew heavy whenever she entered a room. Then, one night, everything changed. Zari had been unable to sleep, her mind restless with unease. That was when she heard a strange humming sound coming from deep within the Whispering Woods. The Whispering Woods were sacred. No one entered them at night. The elders said spirits lived there, watching, waiting. But the sound called to Zari, sending chills down her spine. Slowly, she rose from her sleeping mat and slipped out of the hut, her bare feet silent on the cool earth. The night air wrapped around her, thick with the scent of damp soil and wildflowers. The baobab trees stood like giants, their twisted branches stretching towards the sky. As she moved closer to the edge of the woods, the humming grew louder. It was not a song. It was a chant. Heart pounding, Zari crept through the trees, careful not to make a sound. The deeper she went, the colder the air became. The trees no longer whispered, they seemed to hold their breath. Then she saw her. Nabira. Her mother stood in the center of a hidden clearing, a small fire flickering at her feet. Her lips moved rapidly, speaking a language Zari had never heard before, a language that did not belong to the village, to the elders, or to the land itself. Dark shadows flickered around her, twisting and writhing in the dim light. They were not people, not animals. They were something else. Zari's breath caught in her throat as shapes began to form within the swirling darkness. Faces. Familiar faces. The villagers. She recognized them, people from the village, their expressions empty, their eyes hollow like doors. They stood motionless, their bodies fading in and out of the shadows, their movements unnatural, controlled. Zari bit her lip to keep from gasping. A deep terror settled in her chest. Her mother was not just a healer. She was controlling them. The hidden curse of Nabira. Zari's heart pounded as she took a step back, her breath shaky. Her mind screamed for her to run, to get away from this terrible sight, but in her panic, her foot snapped a dry branch. Crack! The sound shattered the eerie silence like thunder. Nabira's chanting stopped. The fire dimmed for a heartbeat, and then her head turned sharply, too sharply, toward the source of the noise. Her piercing eyes locked onto Zari. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The shadows around Nabira writhed and whispered, as if sensing the intruder. Zari felt her stomach twist. Her mother's face was calm, too calm. Then, in a voice as smooth as flowing water, Nabira spoke. Zari, my child, why are you here? Zari swallowed, trying to keep her voice steady. I heard something. I followed the sound. Nabira's lips curled into an unreadable smile. She took a slow step forward. The darkness around her shifted with her movements, like living tendrils. "You should not have come, my daughter," she said softly. "There are things in this world that you do not understand." Zari clenched her fist. "I understand enough," she whispered. "You're controlling them. The villagers, their spirits." "Why, Mama? What are you doing to them?" A flicker of something unreadable crossed Nabira's face. But her voice remained steady. "This magic is necessary, Zari," she said. "Without it, there would be chaos." "That's not true," Zari burst out. "People should choose to follow a leader because they love and trust them, not because they are being controlled." Nabira sighed, shaking her head. "You are still young, my child. You do not know what happens when people are left to their own desires. Without guidance, they stray. They destroy. They fight." Her voice grew softer, more coaxing. "I do not hurt them, Zari. I protect them. I give them peace." But Zari could hear the falsehood in her words. She was not protecting the village. She was ruling over it. Zari took a step back. "This isn't peace, Mama. This is control." For a moment, Nabira said nothing. Then, her expression hardened, the warmth vanishing from her face. "Go home, Zari," she said coldly. "Forget what you saw here." The wind picked up, swirling around them, carrying strange whispers in a language Zari did not know. The shadows around Nabira deepened, stretching toward her. Zari's breath caught in her throat. She turned and ran. The village begins to suffer. For the next few days, Zari kept her distance from her mother. She did not speak of what she saw in the whispering woods, but her mind was restless. Then, something strange began to happen. Villagers, healthy, strong people, started falling ill. Fever, weakness, confusion. No one knew why. But Nabira did. She arrived at each home with her potions and herbs, touching foreheads and whispering ancient words. The moment her hands passed over them, the villagers felt relief. Their strength returned. The village praised her even more, calling her a miracle worker. But Zari saw something no one else did. The people who fell sick were the same ones she had seen in ghostly form in the woods. The same ones who had been under her mother's control. And worse, only Nabira's potions seemed to help them. Was she the one making them sick? Zari tried to ignore the thought, but the more she watched, the more certain she became. The sickness always struck the strongest, the ones who were most respected in the village. And only her mother had the cure. Zari's blood ran cold. Nabira was not just controlling them, she was weakening them. Desperate for answers, she decided to speak to the oldest elder in the village. Seeking the truth from Baba Esh. Baba Esh was a woman of many years and many secrets. She had been in the village long before Nabira arrived, and some whispered that she even knew the ways of the spirits. Zari found her sitting outside her hut, her silver hair woven into long braids, her wrinkled fingers tracing patterns into the dirt. "Baba Esh," Zari said hesitantly, kneeling before her. "I need to know the truth." The old woman studied her with sharp, knowing eyes. "You have seen it, haven't you?" she murmured. Zari's heart skipped a beat. "You know." Baba Esh nodded slowly. "I have known for many years." She let out a heavy sigh. "Your mother's power does not come from the land, Zari. It does not come from the ancestors or the spirits of our people." Zari's breath caught. "Then, where does it come from?" Baba Esh looked at her with sorrowful eyes. "From a forbidden spirit. A spirit that should never have been called." Zari's blood ran cold. Her mother had made a pact with something unnatural. Something dark. And now, Zari knew the terrible truth. The village was not being protected. It was being enslaved, the ancient guardian's warning. Zari sat in silence as Baba-Esh's words sank deep into her heart. A forbidden spirit, she whispered, her hands trembling. Baba-Esh nodded solemnly. Long ago, before you were born, your mother sought power beyond what was natural. She made a secret pact with something that does not belong in this world. A force that thrives on control, on bending others to its will. Zari swallowed hard. The villagers, the sickness, everything that's happening. It's because of that pact, isn't it? Yes, Baba-Esh said. The spirit gave your mother great power, but it came at a cost. The village is bound to her magic, unable to resist her will. She does not simply heal the people, she keeps them weak so that she may rule. Zari clenched her fist. That's not power. That's enslavement. The old woman's gaze softened. You have a strong heart, child. And there is still hope. Zari's eyes widened. Hope. Baba-Esh nodded. The land is not blind to your mother's deeds. There is another spirit, one far older, far stronger. The guardian of the whispering woods. It watches over the balance of nature, protecting the harmony of all living things. Zari leaned forward. Then why hasn't it stopped her? The guardian does not interfere unless called upon, Baba-Esh explained. It respects the choices of mortals, even when those choices bring harm. But you, Zari, you have seen the truth. And if you are truly strong, you can call upon it to break the curse. Zari's heart pounded. How? Baba-Esh's voice dropped to a whisper. There is an ancient prayer. A song of the land, older than time itself. You must go into the heart of the whispering woods, stand before the great tree, and speak the words. But be warned, child, she added, her expression grave. Breaking your mother's spell will come at a cost. Once undone, her true wrath will be unleashed. Zari exhaled sharply, fear and determination swelling inside her. I don't care about the cost, she said. I will free my people. Baba-Esh studied her for a long moment, then slowly nodded. Then go, Zari. Before it is too late. A night of shadows and secrets. That night, while the village lay in restless sleep, Zari stole away into the whispering woods. The wind howled softly through the towering baobab trees, their ancient branches stretching towards the moonlit sky. The deeper she went, the colder the air became. The whispers in the wind were no longer just the rustling of leaves, they were voices. Watching. Waiting. Zari pressed forward, her mother's ritual still burned into her memory. Then she saw it. At the heart of the woods stood a massive, ancient tree, its trunk as wide as 10 men, its roots coiled deep into the earth like the veins of the land itself. The bark shimmered faintly under the moonlight, and Zari could feel its power. This was the great tree. She took a deep breath and knelt before it. Her voice trembled as she began to speak the ancient prayer Baba-Esh had taught her. O guardian of the land, keeper of balance, she whispered. I call upon you in this hour of darkness. The earth is chained, the people suffer. I seek your wisdom, your strength. Hear me. The air trembled. The wind rushed through the trees with sudden force. The ground beneath her shuddered. Then, from the heart of the great tree, a light began to glow, soft at first, then brighter, until it pulsed like a second moon in the night. Zari shielded her eyes as the light took shape. And then, it appeared. A towering luminous figure, woven from golden light and swirling mist, stepped forward. It had no solid form, yet it felt ancient, powerful, alive. The guardian of the whispering woods. Its voice echoed, deep and resonant, not spoken with words, but heard within the soul. You call upon me, child of the land. Zari's breath hitched, but she forced herself to meet the guardian's glowing eyes. Yes, she said firmly. I need your help. The guardian regarded her in silence. Then it spoke again. You seek to break a great evil. But know this, magic, once woven, does not simply vanish. To undo what has been done is to awaken a storm. Zari swallowed. I understand. The guardian's gaze burned brighter. Do you? The moment the curse is broken, the one who cast it will be freed from its bindings. She will no longer need deception. She will unleash the full force of her power upon this land. Are you ready to face her? Zari hesitated. She had seen what her mother could do while still bound by her secret spell. If the curse was broken, her mother's true power would be unchained. But Zari had made her choice. She stood tall, voice unwavering. I am ready. The guardian studied her for a moment longer. Then, slowly, it raised its shimmering hands. Then the balance shall be restored. The wind howled, the trees trembled, and the light swirled around Zari, a storm of power awakening at last. Confronting the shadows. Zari stood beneath the towering baobab trees, the guardian's light still shimmering faintly around her. The balance shall be restored. The words echoed in her mind as the wind carried them away. She knew she had no time to waste. Her mother's power had to be undone. The counterspell. Zari rushed back to Baba Esh's hut, her heart pounding with urgency. The old woman was already waiting for her, as if she had foreseen everything. You have spoken to the guardian, Baba Esh said simply. Zari nodded. But the guardian warned me, if I break the curse, my mother's true power will be unleashed. The elder's eyes darkened. Then we must be ready. Zari explained her plan. If Nabira's magic thrived on control, then the first step was to free the village. Their minds are still fogged by her influence, Baba Esh said, nodding in agreement. But there is a way. A potion, made from the roots of the moonflower and the bark of the sacred fig tree, it can cleanse the spirit of dark enchantments. Zari's hands trembled with determination as she prepared the counterspell. She ground the herbs, mixed them with sacred water, and chanted the words Baba Esh whispered to her. Finally, she held a small clay pot filled with the shimmering mixture. This must be placed where all will drink, Baba Esh said. Zari's eyes flickered toward the village well. The water Nabira blessed, the water that all drank from. That night, under the cloak of darkness, Zari crept toward the well. Her mother's hut was silent, but she could feel the presence inside, watching, waiting. She poured the potion into the well, whispering a final prayer to the guardian. The water rippled for a moment, then grew still. It was done. The awakening. At dawn, the village stirred. Zari held her breath, watching from the shadows as the first villagers drank from the well. Minutes passed. Then an hour. And then, something changed. The haze lifted from their eyes. One by one, the people blinked, as if waking from a long dream. They looked around in confusion, their minds no longer clouded by Nabira's unseen chains. A murmur spread through the village. People remembered things they had forgotten. The way they used to think, the way they used to feel. A woman clutched her child and wept. A man stared at his own hands as if seeing them for the first time. Zari's heart soared with hope. But the feeling didn't last long. A terrible scream pierced the morning air. The sky darkened. The air grew thick, suffocating. Then, like a storm tearing through the heavens, Nabira appeared. The wrath of Nabira. Nabira stood at the edge of the village, her once gentle face contorted with fury. The air around her shimmered with dark energy, her robes billowing even though there was no wind. You, she hissed, her eyes locking onto Zari. The villagers shrank back. Fear still lingered in their bones, though the spell was broken. You have betrayed me, Nabira said, her voice heavy with something deeper than anger. It was betrayal, grief, rage, and unbearable loss. Zari stepped forward, fist clenched. I freed them. You have ruined everything. Nabira's hands clawed the air, and shadows exploded from her fingertips, twisting into the sky. The sun disappeared. The heavens turned blood red, dark clouds swirling like a monstrous storm. Screaming spirits burst from the shadows, their hollow eyes filled with rage. Lightning struck the earth, and the villagers cowered. This was not the Nabira they had known. This was something far more dangerous. You are my daughter. Nabira roared. You were meant to stand by my side. To inherit my power. Zari held her ground. Not power built on fear. Nabira's face twisted, something unreadable flashing in her eyes. I have given this village peace, she spat. Without my guidance, they would fall into chaos. Zari took another step forward. No. You didn't give them peace. You took their freedom. The shadows around Nabira trembled. Zari could see it now, the doubt hidden beneath the fury. You were once a healer, Zari whispered. A protector. But somewhere along the way, you lost yourself. Nabira's breath hitched, just for a moment. Then her face hardened. You know nothing, child. The shadows lunged. The battle of light and shadow. The sky raged as Nabira's storm of dark energy twisted above the village, blotting out the sun. The wind howled with unnatural fury, carrying the shrieks of unseen spirits. The villagers fell to their knees, clutching their heads as the weight of Nabira's magic crushed the air around them. Zari stood her ground, her heart pounding, but her resolve unshaken. She had expected this. She had been warned. And she was ready. The power of the land awakens. Zari closed her eyes and reached deep into the earth with her soul. Guardian of the whispering woods. I call upon you once more. The moment the words left her lips, the ground trembled beneath her feet. The baobab trees groaned as if awakening from a deep slumber, their ancient roots shifting beneath the soil. A golden light shimmered around Zari, pushing against the suffocating darkness. Nabira's eyes narrowed. You dare challenge me, she snarled. With a furious cry, she thrust her arms forward, and from the swirling shadows, a wave of black fire exploded toward Zari. Zari lifted her hands, and the roots of the ancient trees burst from the earth, twisting and rising like serpents. The black fire met the roots in a crackling explosion of energy, shadow against earth, fire against light. The villagers watched in terror as the battle raged between mother and daughter. Nabira called upon the spirits of the Dark Pact, her voice weaving spells that made the shadows scream. But Zari was no longer alone. The land fought with her. The trees stretched their limbs, their bark glowing with sacred energy. The wind whispered its strength into her bones. For the first time, Nabira's magic met resistance. For the first time, she was afraid. The land takes its due. Nabira let out a roar of fury, summoning a final, terrible force. The dark spirits coiled around her, growing larger, their forms shifting into monstrous, twisted shapes. You cannot defeat me, she bellowed. This power is mine. But then, the spirits turned. Their hollow eyes flickered with recognition. For the first time, they saw her. A tremor rippled through the air. The ground beneath Nabira's feet began to crack. The spirits let out a wailing cry, and the truth was revealed. The power was never hers. It had been borrowed, stolen from the land, from the spirits, from the balance itself. And now, the land was taking it back. The fall of Nabira. Nabira's eyes widened in horror as the very forces she had commanded turned against her. The roots of the baobab trees lashed out, coiling around her ankles, her wrists, her waist. She screamed, thrashing against them, trying to cast another spell, but her magic fizzled and died in her hands. The spirit's shrieks rose higher, twisting in agony, and then, one by one, they vanished into the wind, dissolving like smoke. The sky began to clear. The unnatural storm faded, the swirling darkness pulling inward toward Nabira like a great vacuum. Zari stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "It's over, Mama," she whispered. Nabira's face twisted, not just in rage, but in fear. "Zari," she screamed as the roots tightened, dragging her down. "You don't understand. Without me, the village will." Her words were cut off as the earth swallowed her whole. The last thing Zari saw was her mother's terrified eyes disappearing beneath the soil. Then, silence. The trees settled, their roots returning to the earth. The wind sighed, as if releasing a long-held breath. And then, as if nothing had ever happened, the sun rose once more. A new dawn for Nabira. The village stood still. For the first time in years, the air was light, free of the unseen weight that had bound it for so long. The unnatural storm had vanished, and the morning sun now bathed the land in golden warmth. The curse was lifted. Awakening from the darkness. One by one, the villagers stirred, blinking as if waking from a deep slumber. They looked around in confusion, their bodies light, their minds clear for the first time in years. Zari saw their faces, no longer clouded, no longer under Nabira's unseen grasp. A woman clutched her chest, gasping as if she had just taken her first real breath in a long time. A young man stared at his own hands, his fingers trembling, as if he could finally feel again. Mothers gathered their children in their arms, their tears falling freely, tears of relief, of joy, of freedom. And then, one voice broke the silence. "We are free." A murmur spread. Then whispers. Then cheers. They remembered. They remembered the invisible chains that had held them. They remembered how they had followed without question, obeyed without choice. Now, they were free. Zari's path forward. Zari stood at the center of it all, her heart heavy with both sorrow and peace. She had won. But she had also lost. She felt the absence of her mother like a hollow space in her chest. Nabira had been powerful, cruel even, but she had once been kind, once been loved. Zari mourned the woman her mother had once been. But she knew, Nabira had chosen her path. And now, Zari would choose hers. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, facing the villagers. "You are free now," she said, her voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside her. "And I will not rule you as my mother did. I will not command or control." She placed a hand over her heart. "I will serve you. I will guide. But you will lead yourselves." The villagers listened, their faces filled with wonder, with hope. "You do not need magic to be strong," Zari continued. "You do not need fear to be safe. We will heal, together. We will build, together. And Nabira will rise again." A hush fell over the crowd. Then, one by one, the villagers knelt before her, not in submission, but in gratitude. Zari had not taken a throne. She had taken her place among them. The guardian's blessing. As the people rejoiced, the wind stirred once more, rustling the great baobab trees. Zari felt it before she saw it. The presence of the guardian. She turned, and there, standing at the edge of the whispering woods, the luminous figure appeared once more. It did not speak aloud, but its voice filled her mind, warm and eternal. "You have restored balance, daughter of the land." Zari bowed her head in respect. "I only did what was right. That is what makes you worthy." The guardian's light paused gently. "The spirits will always watch over you, Zari of Nabira. The trees will remember your name. The land will whisper your story." Zari felt the truth of those words settle in her soul. She was no sorceress. She was no ruler. She was a protector, a healer, a daughter of the land. As the guardian's form faded back into the light, the first rays of the sun broke through the trees. A new day had begun. And with it, a new future for Nabira. The end. Herb sparkles.